stars blurred into streaks of white fire. Draven Kale's fighter screamed through the void at full burn, alarms shrieking in his ears. The enemy cruiser loomed ahead, massive and dark, its weapon array flowing orange, charging energy. 3 seconds.
Target
to
locked,
impact,
engaging.
maybe 4. His
Evasive
hands were
path
steady
in
on
doubt.
the controls.
Threat
Behind
neutralized,
his eyes,
returning
another
course.
scene played. Water. Sunlight dancing on gentle waves. A girl with blonde hair floating beneath the surface, her mouth open in a silent scream. Lyra? 8 years ago I froze her, Draven whispered into his helmet. Today I won't. The cruiser's hull filled his viewport close enough to see the scorch marks from previous battles. Close enough to count the rivets. His targeting computer was screaming lock warnings, but he wasn't firing weapons anymore. He was the weapon. Impact. White. Hours earlier, the universe had been quiet. Draven sat in his cockpit watching the stars. They didn't move out here in the dead zone between territories. They just hung there, patient and cold, like they'd been watching humanity's small dramas for billions of years and weren't particularly impressed. His patrol route took him along the neutral corridor. Human space to port, Kairalian Empire to starboard. The treaty said nobody crossed the line. The treaty said a lot of things. He'd been flying for 3 hours. 6 more to go. 9-hour shifts were standard for border patrol, long enough to be thorough. Short enough that pilots didn't lose their edge to boredom. Usually. Draven stretched in his seat, feeling his spine pop. 27 years old and already his back complained when he sat too long. Combat engineering training had been hard on the body. All those hours crawling through damaged ships, learning which systems could be jury-rigged and which ones would explode if you looked at them wrong. His fighter hummed around him. The Hawk-class interceptor was small, fast, and mean. 2 plasma cannons, missile pods on the wings, shields strong enough to take a few hits, engines powerful enough to run like hell if things went sideways. He loved this ship. It was the only thing in his life that made sense. The comm crackled. Alpha 7, this is Commander Voss. Status. Draven keyed his mic. All quiet, Commander. Nothing on scopes. No activity. Copy that. Talon Voss's voice was crisp professional. She'd been his commanding officer for 2 years now. Tough as titanium, fair as gravity. Maintain pattern. We've got another 6 hours of watch. Understood. The line went silent. Draven settled back into his seat, eyes scanning the instrument panel out of habit. Fuel good, oxygen good, weapons charged, everything nominal. Everything boring. His mind drifted. It always drifted to the same place eventually. The lake. 8 years ago. Summer heat making the air shimmer above the water. He'd been 19 home on leave from basic training, helping his father fix the boat dock. Lyra had been 16. Blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, freckles across her nose. She had wanted to swim while they worked. Their mother had said yes as long as she stayed close to shore. Draven had been elbow deep in the dock's support struts, trying to replace a rusted bolt. The water was only 30 feet away. He could hear Lyra splashing, laughing, calling out to their mother on the porch. Then silence. He hadn't noticed at first. The wrench had slipped. He'd skinned his knuckles. He'd cursed, focused on the bolt, tried again. How long had it been? 30 seconds, a minute. When he'd finally looked up, the water was still. Too still. He'd found her 12 feet down, tangled in old fishing line, caught on submerged tree roots. Her eyes had been open. Staring at the surface she couldn't reach. By the time he'd dragged her to shore, by the time their mother had called emergency services, by the time the medics had arrived, it was too late. 16 years old. Dead because her brother had been too focused on a rusted bolt to notice silence. Draven's hand tightened on the flight stick. The stars blurred for a moment before he blinked hard, clearing his vision. He'd joined the military 3 weeks after her funeral. Went straight to combat engineering school. Specialized in rescue operations, learned how to cut people out of wrecked ships, how to breach hulls, how to get to trapped crew before the oxygen ran out. He'd saved 43 people in the last 8 years. 43 souls who'd gone home to their families. It didn't balance the scales. Nothing would. But it was something. The radar pinged. Draven's attention snapped back to his instruments. A contact, no multiple contacts, coming in fast from the Kairalian side of the border. His hands moved across the console, refining the scan. 3 ships. 1 large, 2 smaller. The configuration registered in his database Kairalian civilian transport with military escorts. Not unusual, the Kairalians moved convoys through here, sometimes staying just on their side of the line. Then his blood went cold. 9 more contacts. Smaller, faster, coming in behind the Kairalian ships like wolves chasing deer. Commander Voss! Draven's voice was level professional, but his heart was already accelerating. I've got multiple contacts. Kairalian civilian transport under pursuit by unknown hostiles. The comm crackled with other voices now. The rest of Alpha Squadron checking in, confirming his readings. Voss's voice cut through the chatter. All units form on my position. Defensive posture. We observe only. Do not cross the border. Repeat, do not engage. Draven's fighter joined the formation. 6 human ships now hanging in space like a fence, watching. The Kairalian transport came into visual range. It was beautiful. Sleek curves and silver hull plating that caught starlight like mirror glass. The design was elegant, almost organic, so different from human ships with their angular brutality. This was a royal transport. Had to be. Nothing else in the Corellian fleet looked like that. The two escort fighters flanked it, smaller and more aggressive in design. They were firing backward at their pursuers' plasma bolts streaking through the void. The pursuing ships were painted red and black. No identification markers. Pirates, maybe. Or mercenaries. Or something worse. They outnumbered the Corellian escorts 4-1. "Commander," one of the other pilots said, voice tight, "they're going to get torn apart." "Hold position," Voss ordered. "This isn't our fight." Draven watched through his canopy as one of the escort ships took a direct hit. Its shields flared, flickered, died. The next volley ripped through its hull. The ship came apart in a flash of white fire and spinning debris. "Commander," another pilot started. "Hold position." The second escort was fighting hard, weaving and rolling, trying to draw fire away from the transport. The big silver ship was running at full burn, but it was built for comfort, not speed. The red and black fighters were faster. They were going to catch it. They were going to kill everyone aboard. The second escort's engines exploded. The ship went into a spin, trailing fire and atmosphere. The transport was alone now. Its shields were flickering under sustained fire. Draven could see the pattern. The attackers were targeting the engines. They wanted to cripple it, not destroy it, which meant they wanted whatever was inside. Or whoever. "All units fall back," Voss commanded. "Return to defensive perimeter." The other 5 fighters began to pull away. Draven's hands hovered over his controls. In his mind he saw Lyra's face under the water. Saw her eyes wide with terror looking up at a surface she'd never reach. He saw the transport taking another hit. Saw its shields collapse completely. 30 feet away he'd been 30 feet away, and he'd done nothing. "Alpha 7 acknowledge," Voss said. Draven's finger moved to the communications panel. He switched off his radio. His other hand pushed the throttle forward. The Hawk-class fighter leaped ahead, breaking formation, crossing the border into Corellian space. Through his canopy, he saw the other human ships falling back. Saw Voss's fighter turn, probably with her screaming his name into a dead radio. He didn't look back. The enemy fighters saw him coming. 3 of them peeled off from the transport, turning to meet him. 3 against 1. Bad odds. He'd been in worse. That was a lie. These were terrible odds. Draven's targeting computer locked onto the lead fighter. His thumb settled on the firing stud. Range closed. 2,000 meters, 1,500, 1,000. He fired. Twin plasma bolts lanced out blue-white streaks that crossed the distance in a heartbeat. The lit enemy fighter tried to roll away. Too slow. The shots caught its wings shearing through armor. The fighter spun out, trailing debris. 1 down, 8 to go. The other 2 were on him now, firing. Orange plasma bolts filled the space around his ship. Draven yanked the stick hard left, then rolled inverted, diving under their fire. His shields took 2 hits, the impact rattling his teeth. He came up behind them, locked on, fired. Missed. The fighters split, 1 going high, 1 low. Classic pincer. They were good. Draven pulled a maneuver he'd practiced 1,000 times in simulation and performed exactly once in real combat. He killed his forward momentum completely, letting the ship drift. The 2 enemy fighters shot past him, confused. For 1 second, they were both in front of him. He fired both cannons, stitching plasma across their flight paths. The lower one exploded. The upper one's shields flared but held. It pulled into a tight turn, coming back around. Draven punched the throttle. His ship surged forward, engines screaming. The rest of the enemy formation had noticed him now. They abandoned the transport, turning like a school of predatory fish, sensing blood in the water. 9 ships had become 6. 6 were now converging on him. His shield indicator was already at 60%. His weapons were overheating. His oxygen was fine, but his heart rate was spiking, and that meant he was burning through it faster than normal. This was stupid. This was suicide. He kept firing. The universe became fire and movement. Plasma bolts from every direction. His hands moved on pure instinct, learned reflexes from 10,000 hours in simulators and real combat. Roll, dive, fire, evade. The enemy ships were everywhere, coordinating their attack, boxing him in. He caught one with a lucky shot, blowing through its shields and coring its reactor. It died in a flash of white light. 5 left. His ship shuddered. Direct hit from behind. Shields at 30%. Another hit. Shields at 15%. Warning alarms are screaming now. His left engine was damaged. Maneuvering thrust at 60%. He was slowing down, getting sluggish. Through the chaos, he could see the silver transport. It had stopped running. It was just hanging there in space, watching him die for it. Another hit. Shields gone. The next bolt would go straight through his hull. Draven's eyes found the largest enemy ship. A cruiser hanging back from the dogfight, its weapons charging for a killing shot on the transport. His damaged fighter couldn't outrun them. Couldn't outfight them. But it still had engines. It still had mass. And mass times velocity equaled a lot of kinetic energy. He thought of Lyra. Thought of her smile. Thought of all the moments they'd never have. "I'm sorry I froze," he said to the empty cockpit. Then he aimed his fighter at the cruiser and pushed the throttle to maximum. The Hawk-class interceptor shot forward like a missile. The enemy fighters tried to intercept, firing everything they had. Bolts tore through his hull. The left engine exploded. Half his controls went dead. He didn't need controls anymore. Just forward thrust. The cruiser realized what was happening too late. It tried to maneuver, tried to bring point defense weapons online. Draven saw its hull growing larger, saw the individual plates of armor, saw a porthole where someone inside was probably screaming. He thought of Lyra one last time. Impact. The fighter's remaining fuel reserves detonate on contact. The cruiser's forward section vanished in an explosion that lit up the void like a newborn star. The blast wave caught the nearest enemy fighters, tumbling them through space like leaves in a storm. In that moment of chaos and fire, Draven's hands found the ejection handle. He pulled. The cockpit blew away. His seat rocketed backward on emergency thrusters. G-forces slammed him into the restraints. Then the seat systems activated, encasing him in an emergency pod, pumping crash foam around his body. Through the pod's small viewport, he saw the enemy fighters scattering. Saw the silver Corellian transport untouched its hull, reflecting the flames of the dying cruiser. Saw it turn toward him. Then the radiation meters in his pod started screaming. The cruiser's reactor had breached. Lethal doses of hard radiation were flooding the area. He'd been right in the center of the blast. His vision started to gray at the edges. The pod's medical system was injecting him with anti-radiation drugs, but he could feel it in his bones. The burning, the wrongness. 72 hours, maybe 96 if he was lucky. Then death. The Corellian transport grew larger in his viewport. It wasn't jumping away, it was coming for him. Why? He'd saved them. His job was done. They should run before the enemy fighters regrouped. But the silver ship kept coming, its bay doors opening like a mouth. Draven's pod tumbled inside. The doors closed. Atmosphere flooded the bay. Through his fading consciousness, he felt artificial gravity take hold. The pod cracked open. Hands reached for him, not human hands. 4 of them, long fingers, scaled skin that gleamed silver blue in the bay lights. A face looked down at him. Beautiful. Alien. Eyes the color of amethyst that seemed to glow with their own light. A woman's voice speaking accented but perfect English. "Why did you do this, human?" Draven tried to answer. His mouth wouldn't work. The radiation was eating through him cell by cell. He could feel himself dying. But he managed 3 words before the darkness took him. "Couldn't watch you die." The alien woman's eyes widened. Something like shock crossed her face, something like recognition. She placed one of her 4 hands on his chest. The touch was warm. "You will not die," she said. Her voice carried absolute certainty. "I invoke the resonance protocol. You will not die, Draven Kale. This I vow." How did she know his name? The question drifted away as unconsciousness pulled him down. The last thing he heard was alarms. Medical alarms. The sound of running feet. Alien voices speaking in a language of chimes and harmonics. And that woman's voice cutting through everything else. "Prepare the neural crown. 7 days. We begin immediately." Then darkness. Then dreams of water and drowning and hands that reached but never quite connected. Then nothing at all. Pain woke him. Not the sharp, immediate pain of a wound. This was deeper. Wrong. Like his cells were burning from the inside out, each one screaming its own small death. Draven's eyes opened to darkness. No, not darkness. His vision was failing. He could make out shapes, shadows, the suggestion of light somewhere above. A voice spoke. Male, old. The words were melodic, almost musical, but formed into English. 72 hours maximum. The radiation has penetrated cellular structure. Human medicine cannot repair this level of damage. Another voice. The woman from the bay. Closer now. Then we use Corellian medicine. My queen, the risk. I am aware of the risk, Dr. Hallux. The woman's voice carried absolute authority. Prepare the neural crown. I invoke the resonance protocol. Footsteps approached Draven's bed. He tried to turn his head, managed only a fraction of movement. The woman came into his limited field of vision. She was tall, 2.5 meters at least. Her skin was covered in fine scales that caught the medical bay's lights shifting between silver and pale blue, depending on the angle. 4 arms, 2 on each side, moved with fluid grace. Her face was humanoid enough to read alien enough to remind him he was very far from home. But her eyes, violet, glowing softly in the dim light, looking at him with an expression he couldn't decipher. "Who?" Draven's voice was a rasp. "Are you?" "Queen Sariva of the Corellian Empire." She said it without pride or arrogance. Simple fact. "You saved my life." "Just doing my job." Something flickered across her face. Amusement, surprise. "Foolish human. You destroyed yourself for a stranger. For an alien. Your own commander ordered you to retreat." She leaned closer. "Why?" Draven tried to find words. Tried to explain about Lyra, about freezing, about 8 years of guilt that sat in his chest like a stone. All that came out was, "couldn't watch you die." Sariva's eyes widened. For a moment she was utterly still. Then she straightened all 4 hands, moving in a gesture that might have been ritual. "Then I am bound by honor and blood. You will not die, Draven Kale. This I vow." "How do you—" He hadn't told her his name. Your uniform, your ship's identification broadcast. We know who you are. She turned to the older Corellian, presumably Dr. Hallox. Begin preparations. I will not debate this further. Hallox bowed, his own forearms folding in what looked like reluctant acceptance. As you command, my queen. They moved around the medical bay with purpose. Draven caught glimpses of equipment being assembled, something that looked like a crown made of silver wire and crystalline nodes. Cables. Monitoring devices with displays showing symbols he couldn't read. Sariva returned to his bedside. In her upper right hand she held a translucent mask. This will help you breathe. The pain will worsen before it improves. She placed it over his face gently. Cool oxygen flooded his lungs. I am going to explain what happens next. You will not understand all of it. That is acceptable. You need only know this: for 7 days your life will be bound to mine. 7 days. 72 hours was 3 days. He was going to die in 3 days. The resonance protocol, Sariva continued, is ancient Chiralian medical technology. I will share my bioenergy with you. My cellular regeneration will become yours. Over 7 days your damaged cells will be repaired and replaced. Dr. Hallox approached with the crown. Up close, Draven could see it was incredibly delicate. The crystalline nodes pulsed with soft light. There are side effects, Sariva said quietly. The protocol creates a neural link between us. For 7 days we will share everything. Emotions, memories, pain, joy, fear. There will be no secrets between us, no privacy. She paused, and for the first time something vulnerable crossed her face. If you die during the protocol, I die with you. Our lives will be completely entangled. Do you understand? Draven understood he was dying. Understood this alien queen was offering to risk her life for his, the same way he'd risked his life for hers. Why, he managed. Because you gave me a gift I cannot repay any other way. Sariva's lower left hand touched his forehead, gentle despite the alienness of it. You reminded me what honor looks like. Dr. Hallox positioned the crown above Draven's head. Sariva took an identical one, placed it on her own skull. The devices activated, nodes glowing brighter. This will be uncomfortable, Hallox said, for both of you. The crown settled onto Draven's head. He felt the nodes make contact with his skin. Cool at first, then warm, then hot. Then everything changed. The medical bay disappeared. He was falling through darkness filled with stars. No, not stars. Memories. Thousands of them spinning past him like debris in a maelstrom. A coronation ceremony. A young Sariva kneeling before her dying father, accepting a crown too heavy for her shoulders. 20 years of loneliness. Sitting in throne rooms, making decisions that affected billions with no one to confide and no equals, no friends. The attack on her ship. The terror of watching her guards die. The certainty of her own death approaching. Then him. A human fighter impossibly small, charging 9 enemy ships alone. The memories slammed into Draven like physical blows. He tried to scream, but he had no mouth. He was drowning in someone else's life. And then he felt her in his memories. Sariva experiencing his childhood, his parents, his sister. Oh God, Lyra. The memories seized them both. The lake. The summer heat. Draven working on the dock while Lyra splashed in the water. The moment he looked up and saw only stillness. The dive into the water. Finding her. The fishing line wrapped around her ankle, anchoring her to the submerged tree roots, her eyes open and empty, pulling her to shore, trying to resuscitate her. His mother's screams, the paramedics arriving too late. The funeral, 16 years old, blonde hair in the casket. 8 years of guilt. Sariva's presence wrapped around the memory like arms embracing him. He felt her shock, her horror, her sudden complete understanding of why he'd charged into battle. He couldn't watch someone die again. Not when he had the power to help. The neural connection stabilized. Draven found himself back in his body, gasping. The oxygen mask was fogged with his rapid breathing. Across from him, Sariva sat in a chair, her own crown glowing, her eyes wide and wet. Your sister, she whispered. You blame yourself. Draven wanted to deny it. Wanted to build walls around that pain like he'd done for 8 years. But he couldn't. The protocol wouldn't let him. She'd seen everything, felt everything. You had no right, he said. The words came out broken. The protocol shows truth. Sariva's voice was shaken, stripped of its royal authority. I cannot unsee what I have seen. Cannot unfeel what you have felt. Dr. Hallox checked monitors, made adjustments. The connection is stable. The Queen's bioenergy is flowing to the patient. Cellular regeneration has begun. How long? Draven asked. 7 days, Hallox replied. Day 1 is nearly complete. Your radiation damage is severe but not irreparable. The pain will diminish by day 3. 7 days of this, of having his mind laid bare, of feeling Sariva's emotions as if they were his own. He could already sense her. A presence at the edge of his consciousness, exhausted, shaken, but determined. Rest, she said, and both of us need rest. The lights dimmed. Draven closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time he started to drift, he felt Sariva's thoughts brushing against his. Not words, just feelings, impressions. She was as uncomfortable with this intimacy as he was. Around midnight by the ship's clock, he woke screaming. The nightmare had been vivid. Lyra underwater. But this time he'd been paralyzed on the dock, unable to move, forced to watch her drown over and over. Across the medical bay, Sariva sat bolt upright in her chair, her own scream echoing his. They stared at each other in the darkness. I felt... Sariva's voice trembled. I experienced your dream, your nightmare. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. She stood moved to his bedside. All four of her hands were shaking. I have never... No one has ever been inside my mind like this. It is deeply disturbing. I know. 20 years I have ruled alone. 20 years I have kept my thoughts private, my emotions controlled. Now a human stranger knows my every fear. She looked at him, and in the dim light her eyes seemed to glow brighter. You saw my coronation, my father dying. You felt my loneliness. Yes. Then you understand. For the first time in 20 years someone understands. The words hung between them. Not quite a connection, not yet. But the beginning of something. Your sister, Sariva said softly. She looks like you, same eyes. Draven's throat tightened. Everyone said that. You carry more weight than soldiers twice your age. I feel it. The guilt, it drives everything you do. I know. It is not your fault she died. I know that too. The words were automatic. 8 years of therapy of well-meaning friends saying the same thing. Knowing doesn't help. Sariva was quiet for a long moment. Then I lost my father. Watched him die slowly over 6 months. He chose me to succeed him, and I was terrified. Not ready. I made mistakes in my first year that cost lives. I know what it is to carry death. Through the neural link, Draven felt the truth of her words. Felt the crushing weight of a crown she'd never wanted. Felt decisions that had sent soldiers to their death, civilians to suffering. How do you bear it? He asked. Poorly. A faint smile crossed her alien features. But I endure. That is what rulers do. What survivors do, we endure. The pain medication Hallex had given him was starting to work. Draven felt sleep pulling at him again. Will it be like this every night? He asked. The nightmares? The protocol shares everything. So yes, you will have my nightmares too. Great. Indeed. She returned to her chair. Sleep, Draven Kale. Tomorrow the real work begins. Day 2. The pain was worse. Draven's entire body felt like it was being taken apart and rebuilt at the cellular level, which Hallex assured him was exactly what was happening. But he could sit up now, could eat, his vision had fully returned. Sariva sat across from him, monitoring equipment connected to both their neural crowns. She looked tired. The scales on her skin had lost some of their luster. The protocol takes energy from you, Draven observed. Yes, I am sustaining 2 lives now. It is draining. You could stop. No, I could not. She met his eyes. Honor demands I finish what I began, and... She hesitated. Through the link I have felt your determination, your refusal to give up. It is... inspiring. Day 3. Draven stood for the first time. His legs were shaky, but they held. Sariva watched from her chair, too exhausted to stand herself. Sharing her life force was taking a visible toll, but through the neural link he felt her satisfaction at his progress. Tell me about Karelian culture, Draven said. Anything to distract from the constant low-grade pain. So she did, and he found himself genuinely curious. The protocol let him feel her pride in her people, her frustration with conservative factions that resisted change, her hope for a future where Karelians and humans could coexist. Many of my nobles fear your kind, she said. They see humans as aggressive, unpredictable. Are we... You charge 9 enemy ships alone to save a stranger. Yes, Draven Kale, you are magnificently, foolishly unpredictable. He laughed. It hurt, but he laughed anyway. Through the link he felt her surprise at his laughter. Then her own amusement, reluctant but genuine. Day 4. The pain had receded to a dull ache. Draven walked the medical bay's length without assistance. Hallex ran tests and declared him 60% healed. 3 more days, the doctor said. At this rate, full recovery is certain. Sariva looked better, too. The scales on her skin had regained their shimmer. She could stand without help now, though she tired quickly. They spent the day talking. Really talking in a way the neural link made both easier and more difficult. Every word carried weight because lies were impossible. Every emotion was transparent. Draven taught her the basics of human close combat. She was curious, surprisingly strong, and her forearms gave her advantages human fighters could never match. She taught him Karelian tactical philosophy, the way they thought about warfare as a dance, about honor as a binding force stronger than any law. They moved through the small medical bay together, their thoughts synchronizing in ways that should have been disturbing but somehow felt natural. He threw a slow punch. She blocked with 2 hands, countered with the other 2. You are holding back, she said. You're still recovering. So are you, she pressed the attack, forcing him to defend. Fight properly or don't fight at all. He grinned and stopped holding back. They sparred for 20 minutes before Hallex insisted they rest. Both were breathing hard, sweating alive in a way that felt like victory. Why did this... Sariva asked when they'd caught their breath. Why teach me to fight? Because when this is over, you'll be alone again. I want you to be able to protect yourself. Through the link, he felt her gratitude. And something else. Something warm that neither of them had words for yet. Day 5. The medical bay's comm system chirped. Hallox answered listen, then brought a datapad to Draven. Message for you, from your commander Voss. Encrypted, but our systems decoded it. Draven read the message twice. Extraction team en route. 36 hours, prepare for evac. Sariva read it over his shoulder, their neural link making her understand the implications instantly. They are coming for you. They think I've been captured, or compromised. Have you been... Draven met her eyes. Through the link, she already knew his answer. No. The medical bay doors burst open. Lord Kethron strode in, flanked by 4 armed guards. He was tall even for a Corellian, his scales dark blue with age. His forearms moved in agitation. My queen! We have intercepted human military communications. A strike force approaches our borders. He glared at Draven. This human has betrayed us. He is a spy. He is my guest, Sariva said coldly, under the protection of the Resonance Protocol. The protocol was a mistake. Sever it now before what Lord Kethron, Sariva's voice could have cut steel. Kethron pulled out his own datapad. I have activated the Sleeper Protocol. In 12 hours, every human border station will be destroyed. 50,000 lives. This is the only way to ensure our security. Draven's blood went cold. Through the neural link, he felt Sariva's shock mirror his own. You had no authority, she began. I had every authority. Kethron's composure cracked. For 20 years you have weakened us, made us soft. These humans will destroy us if we do not strike first. The Sleeper Protocol will show them our strength. Draven found his voice. You'll start a war, kill thousands of innocents. Better than millions dead later. Kethron turned to leave. The protocol cannot be stopped. It requires 2 consciousnesses to disable. 1 Corellian, 1 human, and I will ensure you never reach the control center. The guards followed him out. The medical bay doors locked with an ominous click. Silence. Then Draven and Sariva spoke simultaneously. We have to stop it. Through the neural link, they felt each other's determination, each other's fear, and something new. Trust. Complete and absolute. Can you walk? Sariva asked. Can you fight? They looked at each other. The neural crowns glowed softly, binding them together. Day 5 is not complete, Hallox warned. Severing the protocol now could kill you both. Then we don't sever it. Draven stood testing his strength. 60% healed wasn't 100, but it would have to be enough. We go together. Sariva rose beside him. 50,000 lives. Yeah. You would risk yourself for them, for strangers you will never meet. Draven thought of Lyra. Thought of 8 years of guilt. Thought of every life he had saved trying to balance the scales. I couldn't watch them die, he said. Not when I have the power to help. Through the link, Sariva felt the absolute truth of his words. Felt the core of who he was. A man who refused to freeze. Refused to stand by. Refused to let others pay for his inaction. She placed one hand on his shoulder. Then we go, she said. Together. The neural crowns pulsed brighter. Somewhere in the ship alarms began to sound. And the countdown to 50,000 deaths continued its merciless tick towards 0. The medical bay doors were locked, but Draven had been a combat engineer for 8 years. He knelt beside the control panel, fingers working quickly despite the lingering weakness in his hands. Through the neural link, he felt Sariva's presence behind him standing guard, her forearms ready for a fight neither of them wanted. Can you open it? She asked. Give me 30 seconds. The panel's cover popped off. Inside a maze of Corellian circuitry that looked nothing like human systems. But electricity was electricity. Logic gates were logic gates. He found the power conduit, traced it back to the locking mechanism. Sariva's tension spiked through the link. Guards approaching! 2 of them! 20 seconds. His fingers found the right circuit. He crossed 2 contacts that should never be crossed. Sparks flew. The door mechanism screamed in protest. The lock disengaged. Go, he said. The doors slid open just as 2 Chiralian guards rounded the corner. They saw Sariva and froze uncertain. She was their queen, but Kethron had given orders. Draven didn't give them time to decide. He grabbed a medical tray and hurled it at the nearest guard. Not much of a weapon, but it bought a second of distraction. Sariva moved in that second, all 4 arms striking in coordinated precision. 1 guard went down. The second raised his weapon, a plasma rifle aimed at Draven. Sariva's hand shot out faster than human reflexes and tore the rifle from the guard's grip. Her other 3 hands followed through with strikes that dropped him beside his companion. They'll wake in an hour, she said. We need to move. They ran. The ship was massive, a labyrinth of corridors that all looked the same to Draven's human eyes. But Sariva knew every turn, every junction. And through the neural link, Draven could sense the layout forming in his mind, borrowed from her memories. The hangar bay, he said between breaths. We need a ship. Kethron will have sealed it. Then I'll unseal it. They reached a maintenance shaft. Draven pried open the access panel, his engineering knowledge guiding him to the systems he needed. Power conduits, environmental controls, and yes, hangar bay door overrides. "Buy me 3 minutes," he said, diving into the cramped space. Sariva stood at the shaft entrance watching the corridor. Through the link, Draven felt her exhaustion. Day 5 of the protocol wasn't complete. She was still sharing her life force with him, draining herself to keep him alive. "I can feel you weakening," he said while his hands worked. "I can feel your concern. Focus on your task." 2 minutes later, the hangar doors unlocked. Draven pulled himself out of the shaft. "Done. Let's—" The corridor exploded with weapons fire. Plasma bolts seared the air where Draven's head had been a second earlier. He dove left. Sariva went right, using her larger frame to shield him. More guards, 6 of them this time advancing in formation. "Surrender my queen," their leader called. "Lord Kethron's orders. The human is to be detained." "I do not take orders from Kethron," Sariva replied. She charged. Draven had seen her move before during their sparring sessions in the medical bay, but that had been playful. Restrained. This was a queen defending her honor. Her forearms became a blur. She disarmed 1 guard, used his own weapon to disable 2 more, then turned the remaining 3's momentum against them. The whole fight lasted maybe 20 seconds. Draven stared. "Remind me never to make you angry." "You already have. Multiple times." She offered him a hand. "The link shows me your every irritating thought." They reached the hangar bay. Dozens of Corellian ships sat in neat rows, sleek and beautiful even at rest. Sariva headed for a small shuttle near the back. "This one. Fast engines, minimal weapons, but we're not looking for a fight." Draven climbed aboard. The cockpit was designed for Chiralian physiology, everything sized for someone much taller with 4 arms. He squeezed into the co-pilot seat while Sariva took the controls. The engines hummed to life. Then the hangar bay doors exploded inward. Human ships. Fighters. 6 of them led by a Hawk-class interceptor Draven recognized immediately. Commander Voss. Her voice crackled over the open comm channel. "Draven Kale, you are hereby ordered to surrender to Earth military authority. Step away from the Corellian vessel with your hands visible." Through the neural link, Sariva felt his confusion mirror her own. "That's your commander," she said. "Yeah. She should be rescuing you." "Yeah." Voss's fighter drifted closer. Draven could see her through the canopy, her face set in hard lines. "Draven, I know you can hear me. You've been compromised. That alien has done something to your mind. We have orders to extract you by any means necessary." "Tell him listen," he started. "No, you listen." Voss's voice was tight with something that might have been grief. "Earth Command has reviewed the situation. You engaged hostile forces without authorization. You accepted alien medical intervention. You've been connected to that thing's brain for 5 days. She paused. Draven could see her hand gripping the flight stick knuckles white. "You're not Draven Kale anymore. You're a security risk." The words hit like physical blows. Sariva's hand found his shoulder. Through the link he felt her understanding, her fury on his behalf. "Commander Voss," Sariva spoke into the comm, "your pilot saved my life at cost of his own. I am repaying that debt, nothing more. I'm sure that's what you've programmed him to believe." Voss's fighter weapons went live. "Last chance, Draven. Surrender or we fire." Draven looked at the weapons targeting their shuttle, looked at Sariva beside him, her violet eyes reflecting the hangar lights. Through the neural link he felt her readiness to fight, to die if necessary. But he also felt something else. In the back of his mind, a whisper of memory. Voss 2 years ago, pulling him aside after his first rescue mission. "You're going to save a lot of people, Kale. Just promise me you won't throw yourself away doing it." He'd made that promise, and he'd broken it. She thought she'd lost him. Thought the alien queen had stolen his mind, turned him into something else. She was trying to save him the only way she knew how. "Talon," he said quietly, "it's me. Really me. I know you think I've been brainwashed or compromised, but I haven't. Everything I've done by choice." That's exactly what someone who's been compromised would say. "Then look at me. Really look." He moved closer to the viewport where she could see his face. "Have I ever lied to you? In 2 years, have I ever once been dishonest?" Through her canopy, he saw her jaw tighten. Her finger hovered over the firing control. Draven took a breath. "You know me, Talon. You know I wouldn't lie about something like this. You know I'd rather die than let innocent people get hurt." The seconds stretched. Behind Voss's fighter, the other human ships held position, waiting for their commander's order. Draven continued, his voice steady. "There are 50,000 people about to die. Human people. On border stations. Kethron activated something called the Sleeper Protocol. Antimatter charges. We have maybe 8 hours to stop it." Voss stared at him through the 2 canopies. 2 years she'd known him. 2 years of watching him volunteer for the worst missions, save crew after crew, never once put himself first. He had pulled her out of a damaged ship once, carried her through a hull breach while her leg was broken. She had trusted him with her life. Did she trust him now? Finally Voss spoke. "If you're lying to me, Draven Kale, I will personally shoot you myself." "Fair?" Her weapons powered down. The fighter landed. Voss emerged from the cockpit, plasma pistol in hand, but pointed at the ground. She looked at Draven, then at Sariva, then back to Draven. "You look like hell," she said. "Been a rough week. 50,000 people, you're sure?" "I'm sure." Voss holstered her pistol. "Then we'd better move fast. Where's this control center?" Sariva pointed toward the city visible through the hangar bay opening. "The Royal Palace. Deep underground. Kethron will have it heavily guarded." "How heavily?" "Very." Voss looked at her remaining fighters. "I've got 5 pilots. Against how many guards?" 40, maybe more. "Great odds." Voss actually smiled tight and dangerous. "Just like old times Draven. You and me against impossible situations." They moved through the city in Sariva's shuttle, Voss's fighters providing escort. The Festival of Unity was in full celebration below them. Music and lights everywhere. Thousands of Corellians dancing in the plazas, unaware that death was counting down beneath their feet. The palace loomed ahead. Crystal towers catching sunlight, throwing it back in cascades of rainbow light, beautiful, ancient, and hiding a weapon that could kill 50,000 humans. Sariva brought the shuttle down in a plaza 3 blocks from the palace entrance. They emerged into chaos. The festival crowds parted around them, Corellians staring at the human soldiers with expressions ranging from curiosity to fear. "Service tunnels," Draven said. "Every big building has them, for maintenance emergencies." He found an access hatch 2 blocks away, half hidden behind a decorative fountain. The lock was basic. He had it open in 30 seconds. "You're terrifyingly good at breaking and entering," Voss observed. "I prefer tactically resourceful." The tunnels were dark and cramped. They moved in single file, Draven leading because he could feel the palace layout through his link with Sariva. Every turn she'd ever taken in this building was mapped in her memory and therefore in his. They emerged in a sub-basement. Guards patrolled the corridors, but Draven had learned Chiralian guard patterns from Sariva's memories. He led the group through blind spots and between shift changes. Finally, they reached the control center. The doors were massive, reinforced, and sealed. "I can bypass the lock," Draven said, examining the panel, "but it'll take time." "We don't have time." Voss checked her tactical display. 7 hours until detonation." Sariva stepped forward. She placed her palm on a biometric scanner beside the doors. "Royal access. These are my halls, my palace." The doors opened. Lord Kethran stood before a massive console. The sleeper protocol countdown glowed on displays all around him. 7 hours, 16 minutes. He looked up as they entered, smiled. "My queen, and her pet human. How predictable." He gestured to the countdown. "You cannot stop it. The protocol requires 2 consciousnesses, 1 Corellian, 1 human. But to access the system—" He held up his hand. A crystal device was embedded in his palm. "You need royal authorization, which I have already used to lock you out." Sariva stepped forward. "Then I will kill you and use your corpse for authorization." "You could try." Kethran's guards emerged from concealment, 20 of them, all armed. "But you'll never reach the console in time." Draven looked at the countdown, at the guards, at the console that held 50,000 lives in its circuits. Through the neural link he felt Sariva's desperation, her fear, her exhaustion after 5 days of sharing her life force with him. Then Dr. Halix's voice echoed in his memory, something the old physician had said in the medical bay. "The protocol requires 2 consciousnesses to disable. 1 Corellian, 1 human." He looked at Sariva. Their eyes met. Through the link they shared the same terrible realization. "We can do it," Draven said quietly. "We're already connected. 2 consciousnesses, Corellian and human." "But the royal authorization. You're the queen. Your consciousness is the authorization." Sariva's eyes widened. "The protocol would have to be severed, the neural link broken." "To access the system, yes?" Dr. Halix's other words came back. "If the protocol is severed before Day 7 is complete, there is significant risk of death. But more than that, the bond would be destroyed. Everything you've shared, everything you've felt, gone forever." Asterisk. Through the link, Draven felt Sariva's anguish mirror his own. In 5 days she had become less alone, had found someone who understood her completely, had felt connection for the first time in 20 years, and he had found redemption, had felt his guilt over Lyra finally begin to ease, had discovered that freezing on a dock 8 years ago didn't define him. The link had healed them both, and now they had to destroy it. 50,000 lives, Draven said. "I know. We can't let them die." "I know," Sariva's voice broke. "But I do not want to lose this, lose you, the connection." "I don't want to either." He reached for her hand. 4-fingered scaled, utterly alien and utterly precious. "But we don't get to choose. Not really." Kethran laughed. "How touching. The human and the queen sacrificing their precious bond. But you're too late. Even if you sever the link, you'll never reach the console. My guards will cut you down." "Maybe," Voss said. "She and her pilots raised their weapons. But you'll have to go through us first." The guards advanced. Voss's team opened fire. The control center erupted into chaos. Plasma bolts scorched the air. Guards fell. Human pilots fell. The battle was brutal and close and desperate. Draven and Sariva ran for the console. A guard blocked their path. Sariva's forearm struck him down. Another guard. Draven disabled him with a move Sariva had taught him during their sparring sessions. They moved together, synchronized the neural link, making them more than two individuals. They were one organism with a single purpose. The console was 10 meters away. 8, 5. Kethren stepped into their path, plasma blades igniting in each of his 4 hands. The weapons hummed, casting his face in harsh blue light. "You will not undo what I have built," he snarled. Sariva met him. Blade to blade. They fought with the speed and skill of Kyralian warriors, forearms against forearms. The blades moved too fast for Draven to follow a deadly dance between queen and noble. Draven tried to help, but he was too slow, too weak. Still only 60% healed. He'd just get in Sariva's way. A blade caught Sariva's shoulder. She cried out. Through the link, Draven felt her pain as his own sharpened, burning. He grabbed a fallen guard's rifle and fired. The blast caught Kethren in the side. The old noble stumbled backward, his defense breaking. Sariva pressed the advantage. Her blade came up in a rising arc, catching Kethren's chest plate, shearing through armor and scale beneath. Kethren's eyes went wide. Blood darker than human blood spread across his robes. He looked down at the wound, then up at Sariva. "You were always too soft," he gasped. Sariva's blade pierced his chest, sliding between ribs to find his primary heart. The light in Kethren's eyes dimmed. His plasma blades flickered and died. He fell crumpling to the floor, dead before his body settled. Sariva stared at her blade at Kethren's corpse, her chest heaving. "The first time," she whispered through the link. "In 20 years of ruling, the first time I have killed with my own hands." Draven felt her shock, her grief, even for a traitor. But there was no time. "The console," he said. She nodded. They stepped over Kethren's body and reached the interface. The countdown read 6 hours, 52 minutes. Behind them, the battle was ending. Voss and her pilots had subdued the remaining guards. Bodies littered the floor, human and Kyralian both. "Ready?" Sariva asked. Draven placed his hand on the interface. She placed 2 of hers beside it. The console recognized them. Kyralian and human, queen and soldier, connected by the resonance protocol. Access granted. The system opened to them like a flower blooming. Draven could see the sleeper protocol structure through the neural link, could feel Sariva understanding it at the same moment he did. Antimatter charges scattered across dozens of stations, all linked to a central detonation command. All they had to do was sever that command. But to do it, they had to sever the protocol itself. The console required full authorization, not just Sariva's biometrics, her consciousness, separate from his. The console was waiting. Draven looked at Sariva. Her violet eyes were wet with tears that caught the display light. "I will remember this," she said. "Remember you, even if the link is gone." "Me too." Through the bond, they felt everything one last time. Every memory, every emotion. 5 days of absolute connection compressed into a single perfect moment of understanding. Draven felt her love for her people, her loneliness, her newfound hope. Sariva felt his guilt, his redemption, his quiet strength. Together they felt what it meant to truly know another soul. Then together they pressed the authorization sequence. The sleeper protocol began to shut down. Station by station, charge by charge, death being systematically denied. And the neural crowns began to burn. Pain. Searing absolute pain. Like their brains were being torn in half. Draven screamed. Sariva screamed. The link between them was being ripped apart, neurons separating, consciousness dividing. He felt her slipping away. Felt the presence that had been constant for 5 days growing distant, fading. "Don't go," he thought desperately. "I don't want to," came her reply, faint now, almost inaudible. "I'll miss you." "And I you." Then silence. The link severed completely. The neural crowns went dark. Draven collapsed. The console showed the sleeper protocol disabled. 50,000 lives saved. But the price. He couldn't feel Sariva anymore. Couldn't sense her emotions. Couldn't share her thoughts. The constant presence that had filled 5 days was gone, leaving a hole so vast he couldn't breathe around it. Beside him, Sariva had fallen to her knees. She was staring at her hands like she didn't recognize them. "I can't," she whispered. "I cannot feel you." Draven crawled to her, reached for her hand. When their skin touched, it was just touch. No neural feedback, no shared emotions. Just 2 hands holding each other in the wreckage. "I'm still here," he said. She looked at him. Tears ran down her scaled cheeks, tracking lines of silver. "I know, but it is not the same." It wasn't. Voss was suddenly there, helping Draven to his feet. "Is it done?" He nodded, unable to speak. "Then let's get you both out of here. Medical teams are on the way." Dr. Hallex rushed in moments later, scanned them both with his instruments. "The protocol is severed," he said, wonder in his voice. "Completely. Day 7 never completed, but you both survived." He paused, checking his readings again. "This is remarkable. The odds were less than 30%. You should be dead." "We know the odds," Sariva said quietly. 6 months later. Draven stood in the palace's diplomatic hall, adjusting his collar for the 3rd time. The formal suit felt strange. He was more comfortable in flight suits and engineering coveralls. But today was important. The hall was filled with dignitaries, human and Corellian both. The first joint summit between their species. Trade agreements to finalize, cultural exchanges to establish, a dozen small steps towards something that might eventually become friendship. He wore the title of Human Ambassador to the Corellian Empire. The first ever. The position kept him busy. Endless negotiations, translation work, mediating disputes between two species that still didn't entirely trust each other. It kept him on Chiral Prime, working alongside Sariva every day. They'd never spoken about the link, about what it had meant, about what they'd lost. They didn't need to. He could still sense her sometimes. Just barely, like an echo at the edge of hearing. When she was happy, he felt a warmth in his chest. When she was stressed, a tightness he couldn't explain. And she could sense him too. He knew because of the way she'd turn to look at him sometimes, right when he was thinking about her. Dr. Halleck said it was impossible. The protocol had been severed. There should be no connection remaining. But there was. Faint, incomplete, nothing like what they'd shared. But real. The summit was entering its third hour. Sariva sat on her throne listening to trade proposals with infinite patience. Draven stood to her right, translating nuances between Corellian and human negotiators. A particularly difficult point came up. Resource allocation. The human delegate was being stubborn. The Corellian noble was getting offended. Draven felt Sariva's amusement a second before she spoke. She proposed a compromise that gave both sides what they needed while neither felt like they'd lost. It was elegant, perfect. And it was exactly what Draven had been about to suggest. Their eyes met across the hall. She smiled. He smiled back. The summit concluded successfully. As the delegates filed out, Sariva gestured for Draven to follow her to a balcony overlooking the city. The Festival of Unity was starting again. Its annual celebration. Music drifted up from the streets below. Lights were beginning to glow as sunset painted the purple ocean's gold. 6 months, Sariva said. You have been here 6 months. Has it been that long? You could go home. Return to Earth. Your tour as ambassador could end. It could. But you won't? It wasn't a question. Draven looked out at the city, at the alien world that had somehow become home, at the woman beside him who was no longer in his mind but somehow still in his heart. No, he said. I won't. They stood in comfortable silence watching the festival begin. Commander Voss had returned to Earth. She'd filed her report about the Sleeper Protocol about Kethron's betrayal. Earth Command had been skeptical at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. The alliance talks had begun. Voss had pulled Draven aside before she left. You're really staying? Yeah, because of her. He'd thought about that. Because of a lot of things. Because the work matters. Because I can make a difference here. Because of her. Voss had repeated, but she was smiling. Take care of yourself, Draven. And if that alien queen breaks your heart, I'm coming back to shoot her. She can hear you, you know. We're on her ship. I know, Voss had clapped his shoulder. You did good, Kale. Saved a lot of lives. Lyra would be proud. She would have been. Now standing on the balcony with Sariva, Draven felt the ghost of his sister's memory. But it didn't hurt anymore. Not the way it used to. He'd saved 50,000 people. Not to balance the scales for Lyra. Not to earn redemption. Just because it was right. The fireworks began. Human and Chiralian celebrating together. Two species that had found a way to build bridges instead of walls. Then at exactly the same moment, both Draven and Sariva turned to face each other. The connection was still there, faint, incomplete, but permanent. Dr. Hallex had been wrong about a lot of things. Some bonds transcended technology, transcended neural crowns and medical protocols, transcended even the severing that should have erased them. Thank you, Sariva said softly, for not freezing, for saving me. Thank you for saving me back. In the distance, fireworks burst in cascades of color. The festival music swelled. Thousands of voices, human and Chiralian, raised in celebration. The fireworks reflected in Sariva's violet eyes, making them glow even brighter. Draven felt her contentment echo in his chest like a second heartbeat, and for the first time in 8 years when he thought of Lyra, he didn't see her drowning. He saw her smiling, and saw her at 16 full of life and possibility. She would have liked Sariva, he thought. Would have been fascinated by the alien queen with 4 arms and scales that caught the light. Would have been proud of her brother for choosing courage over fear. The Festival of Unity played on. The future stretched ahead uncertain but filled with possibility. And two souls, who had been bound together for 7 days, discovered that some connections never truly end. They simply change into something new, something lasting, something real. Sariva's hand found his, 4 fingers curling around 5, alien and human, different but fitting together perfectly. The summit tomorrow will be difficult, she said. The mineral rights negotiations. I know, I've been reviewing the proposals. You already know what I'm going to suggest, don't you? Yes? And I know your counter-proposal. Yeah. She squeezed his hand gently. This connection, whatever it is, it makes diplomacy either very easy or very complicated. Both, Draven said. Definitely both. They watched the fireworks together, watched their two peoples celebrating a peace that 6 months ago had seemed impossible. All because one pilot had refused to watch someone die. All because one queen had refused to let honor go unanswered. The stars above Kirau Prime shone cold and patient, the same stars Draven had watched from his cockpit that day. They had witnessed his choice, witnessed his sacrifice, witnessed something rare and precious being born. Below them, a world they'd saved learned to hope. And beside him, an alien queen who'd shared his soul smiled at the future they'd built together. The neural crowns were gone, the protocol severed, but the resonance remained, faint as starlight, strong as gravity, forever.